it part whatever and a bit. And again to the wonderful John Sammy Newman and his player mates. You mentioned welcome to country. This is my point exactly. Forget the part about the fact, just as a recap to those first timers, about me being asked to testify against a GEO employed prison officer by the name of Devon Woodbourne, leading to literal sex trafficking, literally positioning me in rooming houses where drug addicted, disenfranchised sex workers were positioned, whose role it was to try to, I didn't know, it's not like I went and engaged in any set, they were just fellow drug users at the time, in the rooming houses I was made to stay at a woke-minded, very corrupt left-wing government Melbourne Drug Court order. So they would position, hey, you got to stay at this place. And then there were other drug using girls. These people were paid informants just with turning a blind eye to copious drugs, ridiculous amounts of crime. Well, I mean, I would be watching at times paid informants being excused. I'm talking 10, 15 paid informants while they're pretending to all and sundry. All these people that are puffing meth, shooting meth, stealing stuff, turning up in stolen things, who now turned out to be paid informants, Mr. John Sammy Newman, while they're pretending, oh, no, we've got to do this for behaviour change of Michael Califf. Come on, mate. And if you for 1 second try and excuse a corrupt government, sex trafficking, drug addicted women as, oh, geez, you know, you shouldn't A, they were never engaged as sex workers, there's that aspect. But B, that's the crux of the Epstein story. The crux, the backbone of the Epstein and the P. Diddy, throw in a bit of Weinstein there, or whatever his name is. That's the crux of those stories. Sex trafficking, like you'd expect that from a pimp bikie or some scumbag, low-life drug dealer, you know, you'd expect that from them. Yeah, go and turn your tricks, do what you got to do. We want you to be able to afford to buy our meth. You'd expect that from a government to protect corruption. Come on, mate. Anyway, let me continue. You mentioned welcome to country. Now, this is your money orchestrating this. By this stage, I'm referring to papists, the left-wing puppet papist. Almost like a Nick, whatever his name is, the mayor, like part of the oligarchs, you know, the left-wing puppets who seem to have done exceptionally well under the reign of a left-wing, disgusting Kier Starmer-like government under the reign of Daniel Andrews. These puppets seem to have done very, very well from his reign, his time in office. Anyhow, it makes me sick. They're disgusting people. You get to see them up close. Oh. Anyway, like you can actually look, unfortunately, from the dock, if you've never had the misfortune of having a criminal charge leveled at you, occasionally you get to like look straight up the nose of these disgusting left-wing oligarchs. Anyway, let me continue. So I'm on this Melbourne Drug Court with bucket loads of your money. I'm watching bikies get excused from selling drugs in the foyer of the Melbourne Drug Court. I'm watching Sean Sonnets get cooked with the weaponised misuse of AI. I'm watching young 19, 21, 22-year-olds who I knew from around, like walking, like doubting themselves, one step off suicide because some left-wing moron has been given the game plan, basically just to break them, tell them they're worthless pieces of shit, and then build them back up again. Of course I was telling these people, you're not. You're decent people. You've just done it anyhow. I won't veer into that because I will get very, very grumpy at that one. Pieces of shit. trying to break people's spirits so they can build them up over a dirty, rotten joint or something. Disgusting human beings, mate. Anyway, so here is this papist puppet, Mr. John Sammy Newman, this left-wing oligarch, and he has a brother. And in my bait sessions, where when they were using their weaponized AI to garner a reaction and then to use that against me, all wrapped up as a Melbourne or behaviour change and spreading it around their mates in the mainstream media and whatnot, somewhere in all that, they completely overlooked the fact that I grew up playing football in WA alongside Indigenous. My uncle was like an honorary tribe member, brought into a tribe, like a absolutely massive thing for a white person to be actually honorary accepted into 3 Indigenous tribes because of his work, dental work, with genuine Indigenous tribal communities in the flippin' 70s. So think, you know, it was a bit of a different time back then. And here's this woke puppet trying to speak to me from Victoria, no less, trying to speak to me and lecture me about what is right and culturally appropriate. So anyway, my point is, Mr. John Sammy Newman, however it came about, we then got to this stage with the peanuts. Excuse me if I sound a bit angry here, mate, because this is your money, Victorian public money, and these are the people that are directly responsible for the law and order, the mess, the just mess in general, the corrupted, drug-addled mess. Directly responsible, these type of people, these stories. Combine these stories by everywhere, and that is how we've got to this mess. Anyhow, so here's this puppet pappas, and somewhere in their puppet pappas left-wing oligarch brain, she wants to spend your money on trying to school me on Indigenous issues. She went to great lengths to get a paid drug-using Indigenous informant to just always be there whenever I happen. Anyway, it was very obvious. And then put on this massive song and dance, getting Indigenous judges in and all this nonsense, and making a big song and dance about a welcome to, like, it costs money. Puppet pappas. Like, this is public money. Take all that money you're sitting there trying to spend on faux Indigenous issues and just put a roof over a bloke's head, and he probably won't need to flip and feel the need to offend, and he'll, God only knows, perhaps put a drug down off his own volition. But that isn't good enough for these peanuts. These woke peanuts, they want to spew their nonsense on you, Sammy, at great expense to you. And not just money, great expense to the once beautiful state. It's all in demise. It's a shithole, because these people would be more interested in spewing their shit, their left-wing shit on a person, than they are on actually getting results. And that's how we got in the mess. That is how Victoria is in the... Look, I'm driving past. Have a look at this. Have a look at this. Have a look at this. I'm just driving along what were once just decent streets. Look. Oh, yeah, so what? It's just graffiti. You know, it's just graffiti. Oh, you know, like, gosh, like, come on. It's just graffiti. Don't be so upset. It's not just graffiti, it's what it represents. And when you know these peanuts have spent bucket loads, like people go, oh, you know, AI gets installed. With every AI little game, they've got to have people monitoring it. What goes along with it is people monitoring it, people being there, positioned in where you're about to turn up, tracking you. What, did they track a bikie? Did they track that drug dealer? Did they even track that bloke that was at a funeral? No, they happened to track the dog. The guy who dared be in a criminal interview, didn't even testify, was just in an interview against one of their own, a GEO employed Devon Woodbourne. Mate, You see how sickening it is? You see how disgusting it is? When you can see, you watch for yourself. You see organised criminals, high-level organised criminals, walking through what you know are surveilled areas. I knew I was being surveilled and watched, all because of that GEO Devon Woodbourne incident, because I was there to testify against I knew I was being surveilled. They'd have a go at me, and they'd watch organised criminals, drug dealers, bikies walk out with a gun in their pants, 4 ounces of meth. Come on, mate, that was 7 odd years ago. 8 years ago. Have a look at the mess we're in now because of these peanuts. I would watch paid informants, John Sammy Newman. Paid informants. I've said this earlier. 8 heaps, like a little mini army of housos. You know, the people you see like milling around down the end of Elizabeth Street or sitting out the front of Coles or whatnot. These people were paid meth head informants. But the fact that they're informing gives them this weird green light to commit these petty crimes. It's okay. He's an approved informant guy. It's no problem. Hang on, but you're turning a blind eye to 8 different criminals who are riding in stolen cars, puffing meth, half a bag of meth in there, all this type of stuff, and then pretending you're doing it to behaviour change this one individual. Hang on a minute. Oh, this one individual in the eyes of a very corrupt government system is seen as a whistleblower. That's the only difference. That's how you got in this mess. That is factually how you got in this mess. I could give names, times, dates, place. You know why they don't sue me, Mr. John Sammy Newman? Because they know if they put me on the steps of one of those Supreme Courts, put me up there on the, took the stand and spewed every single word of it, it would all be bought out. As corrupt as the courts are, the reality is they just still know how to get the facts out. And if all of a sudden they're like, right, we're going to sue this guy, he shouldn't have said that, yeah, no worries, let's go. Put me on the stand. And I go, bang, this person did this, that person did this, X, Y, Z happened, yep, then I got put here, her name was such and such, this person was such and such, this first started, they would have to call all these people, okay, and it would all be 100% verified, and I'd be that guy standing on the steps going, yes, that's right, Heidi Murphy, yeah, that's what they did. And you know what would happen? Jacinta Allen would be put in stocks. She'd probably be put in stocks if the truth surfaced of what I've been through because of her corrupt government. She would probably be put in stocks in Burke Street. Don't worry about bouncing a baby down the Burke Street Mall. She would be put in stocks and people would be wanting to throw fruit at her or something. Because what I am in knowledge of as fact is absolutely sickening, disgusting. And they want to pretend, they want to spread people's sex lives around. I can't believe people like go along with it. I can't believe decent people apparently didn't scratch their heads and go, hang on, it's a bloke's sex life, bro. What? Hey, what? But people, pharmacists, teachers, all manner of decent mainstream media all went along for the ride. And the best I can come up with is there's a documentary, a Four Corners documentary, Mr. John Sammy Newman, called India's Daughter. And on that, it documents, I was called a bad racist for talking about this and having it caught on tape. Bad racist. There was a document, and stalked by the Indian community. There was a documentary called, BBC documentary called India's Daughter. That got played in Australia on Four Corners under, I believe it was called The Crime That Divided a Nation. And in effect, what it documented a horrible, like disgusting murder and rape of this beautiful, lovely Indian girl. And she got dragged on a bus by 4 Indian boys, young adults. And they raped her so badly, they used sticks. And this poor woman was in hospital. She died. Like, her organs were pulled out from her vagina. Now, our government, our left-wing government, many of them were me as a racist for talking about this. Fact, I've lived through it. I've seen these left-wing disgusting human beings. So this poor girl was on a hospital bed and she had been raped by a stick, Mr. John Sammy Newman, by these 4 people, young scumbag men. And what happened was, she didn't die immediately. Even though they threw her out of the bus like trash when they'd finished with her, she got found and she was alive. She stayed alive for 3 days or something, until her organs, which had been pulled out through her fucking vagina by a stick, had been that much damaged. There was no repairing it. She died. Our government called me a racist for talking like that. Anyway, then what happened was the crime divided a nation part came into it, because many people, good people, decent people, allegedly, doctors, lawyers, pharmacists, teachers, were all calling for these 4 boys, 4 young scumbag men, to be released from prison and drop all charges, because it was her fault for being out after 9 p.m. or whatever it was in a skirt. Now, when I spoke like that about that, our left-wing government is that damaged in the head, our bureaucracy is that full of fuckwits. I was called a racist, and great lengths were gone. I mean, like trying to make a big scene, like bringing in Indian migrant, like migrant counsellors and migrant corrections workers, like I'd somehow offended them by speaking. What about the poor fucking girl, you piece of dirt? Anyway, so this is the type of left-wing, disgusting lunacy that we have dealt with, has seen us get here. You can't be angry enough. I lost my way then, because that was, that's where I was going. That reminds me, the fact that good, decent people were just completely privy to like Epstein-like facts, like completely in knowledge of our government sex trafficking women and exposing and using hidden cameras and then exposing it and talking like that. Good, decent people would go along with it. What, are you twisted in the head? Like, my advice is to be less ignorant, to learn and to think why you are being manipulated. And if it involves hidden cameras and a person's sex life, irrespective of who that person is, you are probably in the wrong. Okay? If it involves hidden cameras and any individual's sex life, even if it happens to be a white middle-aged man, you are in the wrong. And fortunately, we have laws to protect ourselves from that. Now, I can remember also saying on one last little rant, I can also remember saying around this time, if what our government was doing, if what I was doing was so wrong, if what they were doing was correct, they wouldn't be hiding about it now, would they? They would have come out and openly said, hey, you can't do that on this order, that's just... No, mate, they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly the crimes they were breaking, and that's why it stayed in the gutter, in the gutter and the garden beds, hidden where it belongs, because until I made that much noise about it, wrote books, wrote to the media, screamed to everybody to bring it to surface, and then they try and like, oh yeah, we were doing this for that, and bullshit. You were doing it because you're scumbags. You didn't think what you were doing, and you wanted to get at a person who taunted you, and that person happened to be asked to testify against a GEO-employed prison officer by the name of Devon Woodbourne. And the fact that Jacinta Allen and Daniel Andrews and their little cronies don't want to actually investigate genuine corruption, It's sickening. It's exactly the same corruption. You can go, oh, you know, gee, scumbag inmates, like, shouldn't have robbed that fucking, you know, shouldn't have, like, stolen that from that bank. Oh, you fucking scumbag. Shouldn't have used that fucking heroin, should you? You idiot. It's the exact same corruption you're getting robbed with.